Hi.
Hello. Let me get the glare out.
Yeah, you've got lots of glare and you're a bit hazy, and I can see myself over your shoulder,
Oh,
which is a little
you're looking at our gun rack.
and groovy. Oh, nice. Well, I mean, I feel like that adds another dimension of badass to our show.
Absolutely. All right.
Mark, what are you doing in Florida? Oh my God. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Rachel. Oh my goodness. I'm going to knock this thing over. You know it's going to happen. Okay. Week 4.
Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Happy anniversary. Okay.
Okay. Good. Okay. I'm glad we got our little dance break out of the systems here. We're feeling good. Thank you for joining us. ThoughtFLOW Volume 4 with me, Misty, Cauthen, and my partner with guns, Nikki Taylor Stewart. Pew, pew, pew.
Yeah,
Hi.
compound bows too.
Oh my gosh, I just brought my compound bow back from my mom's house over the weekend. It's so freaking
jealous.
Oh my gosh. Oh, here's the thing though. My dad built it, which is really cool. You know, it's just weapons are just kind of what we did growing up. But I mean, you can't knock this thing unless you've like pounded some turbo weight gainer and, you know, some creatine. You just have to be a beast to pull that back. So needless to say,
he came for vacation, got trapped.
Mark is in Florida, of all places to be. You better stay out and get that vitamin D, my friend. Hi, Jess. How are you today?
Hello.
Thank you for coming. So I haven't told you about Jessica, Nikki. Jessica and I are sisters. I mean, sure, she was born by other people, which is kind of unfortunate, but you know, I mean, all of our lives. So I love her. I love her. And when you come to visit Pittsburgh, you will meet her because she is cool and groovy. See, I'm not lying.
She's not lying.
And and Chuck is here too. Hello, Chuck. When you come to Pittsburgh, we will eat Chuck's food. Chuck is an amazing chef. Lovely.
I have a part in my heart for food.
Oh man. And I did not eat beforehand. I know I said I was going to have snacks on the call tonight, but I've given up Cheetos and I'm wearing pants. So might as well just get right to business, shall we?
Absolutely. Goals.
Goals. You gotta love them eventually, but sometimes it's hard to set those goals, right? We've talked about this intermittently and in different ways, but it's hard to set the goals. It's hard to keep the goals. And sometimes it's hard to let go of the goals. We get all hunkered down like a dog with a bone. I'm really going to be a fashion model. I'm going to be so fabulous. Step off, Giselle. This is going to be my life. I'm going to take the spotlight.
Except I can't put the food down.
I can't put the food down. I'm only 4'7", and I can't walk in heels, and my feet are too wide. I can't even get them in a Jimmy Choo's. So my goal's busted.
Goals.
But all my life, that's been what I've been planning for. So one of the things that we're going to talk about tonight is reestablishing goals. Know when to hold them and when to fold them, as that guy. Kenny Rogers, not the Kenny guy.
Footloose too. There's some footloose goals.
Yes. See, and we will definitely talk about that. But tonight also, you guys are going to get a chance to help us break the machine. This is the big audience participation night. So I hope you have been thinking about some topics, because if you don't throw any at us, we're going to have to bring our own, and God only knows where we're going to end up there. So Nikki, why don't you start talking about what we've been talking about with goals and goal setting and goal breaking?
Workshopping goals. So goals. We start a project, whatever that project is for you, a business, a family, a marketing strategy, whatever that is. So there have to be bullet points, right? There have to be bullet points. You get into year 1, you get into year 3, you get into year 5. Well, somewhere around year 2.5, 3, you have to go back and look at your goals. Are you on the path? Are you on track with those goals? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Maybe you are not, because the goals have shifted. The need for this shift has occurred. And that's what we mean by workshopping the goals versus writing them down, putting them up on that huge dry erase board that you have in your office, or that little piece of paper you have folded in your pocket that you carry around with you. But things change.
Goals.
So the goals that you wrote down in year 1 or in year 0, baby year, you have to shift those. Maybe you do. Maybe your project, your strategic planning, maybe your studio, maybe your house, maybe your family blew up. And so the goals that allow for this sort of seamless transition forward, maybe that doesn't work anymore. So I think workshopping the goals is about assess and reassess in a timely manner. What does that mean? That's going to mean different things for different people. But certainly, I know for me, I have to go back. I look monthly, quarterly, yearly, because that's just the way my brain works. I'm already on year 5 for a project that I haven't even started or thought about. So, but going back and looking, and maybe looking at what's in front of you. We talked about this, that studio class that runs at 12 o'clock, but all of a sudden you no longer have a lunchtime crowd. How long are you going to keep that 12 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, Friday class on the schedule with 1 or 2 people showing up? So some of our goals, or need to shift our goals, are going to be right there in front of us. We should open our eyes and look at that.
And I actually want to take that point and take it a little bit more personal, right? So not that businesses and families and all that aren't personal, but sometimes it's easy to create space between us and those goals that make them a little bit more, I would say, easy to digest. So I'm going to put this out here. Let's talk about personal goals. We're in the fitness business. People come to us all the time and they say things like, well, I want to lose weight, or I want to change my body. And this is something that I would like to have happen by Thursday at 2:35 p.m. And I mean, in one, say, yes, you set a goal and you jumped out there and you have spoken it, but it's more than just where thoughts become verbal actions. The goal has to be manageable. It has to be attainable. And if you're setting a goal like that, that's so narrowly focused and completely impossible, because Thursday at 2:30 happened hours ago. And I say that because it's a little bit funny, but we see this all the time in our line of work. When you're setting a goal, you have to look at, is it even feasible? If you're going to a wedding in 3 weeks and you want to lose an inch or 2, you might be able to do that by eating cleanly and exercising and making small changes to your life. But if that wedding is in 3 weeks and you want to lose 30 pounds, short of having some ass cheeks removed and maybe even a limb, that's just not an attainable goal. And the reason why this is important to say is, how many times have each and every one of us sabotaged ourselves because we wed ourselves to goals that deep down we knew were unattainable? But there's comfort in the self-sabotage. It's like, you know what? I could have lost 30 pounds in 3 weeks, but my brain is just broken. And I did it to myself. Well, yeah, you did it to yourself, but not that way. You don't get a pass on a sustainable goal. It was almost like pointless in making it, right? And I think we've all been there.
Uh-oh. There you go. You froze for a minute, Misty.
You there?
Yeah.
There you are. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So in talking about that, it's easy to take a goal and take it outside of ourselves, but when we bring it in, those are the goals that we have to really be looking at here, I think, before we can talk about the big grandiose goals. Because if we're intentionally sabotaging ourselves, how do we get out of that quagmire to set good goals and to know when to alter them moving forward?
So the goals then, in the way that you're speaking of them, they are breadcrumbs or footsteps. Each goal in itself is a marker for success. But then a combination or a grouping of goals is an even bigger marker for success. And so, am I going to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks? Is that realistic? Is it something that I can maintain even if it were to happen? But by the same token, or not even by the same token, because we want the goals to have a lasting effect. If it's a goal that we desire, in whatever world that is, if it's a goal that we desire, I guess I feel like I'm assuming it's a goal that we want to have some tangible effect, potentially a lasting effect.
Sure.
So that means how we set up for that goal has to be realistic so that we have the larger successes. This is my endpoint, right? I've got this 3-week deadline, to get in this really cute, slinky dress. But is it realistic? And what is realistic? So setting up these breadcrumbs or these little footprint goals that allow us to get to the larger goals, but to create a path of success. And I think that that's a really big thing, because I think sometimes the goals are so astronomical that it's not preparing one for success.
Because you don't have the tools or the skill set. There's a knowledge deficit that keeps us from even being able to really parse that goal down, right?
But you made a good point. Losing that weight prior to this wedding that you want to attend, and you said, looking at the exercise, the diet, how many times a week they would come into the studio, like, what is the commitment to the goal?
Yes.
You can have a goal, but are you committed to the thing that you say you want? And so then part of that would be back to sort of that self-reliance thing, making a commitment to yourself. Yes. Ooh, I think that was way back in week 1. It's our anniversary. Sorry. But making, digging deep, your internal tribe, all your little people on the inside who are like, yeah, girl, we want to get into that dress for this wedding. Making the commitment to yourself. So putting in front of you goals that are realistic for you to feel successful, which will then keep you in that happy pursuit of continuing to attain those goals.
And I got to jump in here because Martin, our friend Martin Reed here, came locked and loaded here. He's got this fantastic statement here that I love. You could argue that setting goals is a defeatist approach. Setting habits, small daily habits, or it actually says habits daily, that point to an objective that if I push on my screen, it's going to fall down. So I'm not going to be able to read the rest. But
that's it. Small habits daily that point to an objective.
Yes. I love this because, like I said in our little promo for today, making goals, like, it makes me sweat a little bit because, I'm just a person that likes to go out and get shit done. And the problem with that approach is that it can be a little bit scattered and disorganized. But yet, if you swing it around and think of it more as I'm setting some habits, I know that to get to the big goal, and I don't want to talk about weight loss anymore because I hate it. But I know that if I want to clean up my diet, that not for the purpose of weight loss, but for the purpose of feeling better,
Right.
I'm not going to just get rid of all of my Cheetos and call it a day. No, that is not happening. Don't ask me to do that, Nikki. No, I'm kidding. But what I may do, like one of my things to do is like just stop for a minute before I walk into that cabinet with the Cheetos and say, is this something that I really want right now? Because I need to repattern my habits. My other thing right now is just getting up in the morning and the first thing I do being look at the news. I have got to stop that for myself because it sets a negative tone for my day. But like news, like some people like cocaine and I like NPR. And so for me, I have to be very, very careful with that. And some days I win and some days I lose. But on the days that I lose, I say, you know what? I'm aware of this at least. I know that I fell into the ditch and, you know, I've been standing in the shower reading news stories for an hour. What am I going to do to make that better tomorrow?
I had to, I'm going to just kind of piggyback on your NPR thing. I had to, because in the middle of the winter, I was driving, I was in my car, and I'm one of those people who turns the heat on but cracks my sunroof. And in the summer, I turn my air on and open I do that. It was really bitterly cold here, like 2 years ago. And I live in Chicago, for those of you who don't know. Well, I'm not actually, I'm in a suburb. I digress. But I was in Chicago. And
close enough.
Driving in the car in the winter with the heat on and listening to NPR, and there was a barrage. It was like every day. It was negative Nelly, negative Nelly, negative Nelly, negative Nelly. And I literally felt like I was trapped in my car. I felt like I needed to be in the know, but I also felt like I was trapped in my car. And I couldn't. And so for my commute, which at the time was an hour, it was an hour of just being bombarded with just crazy political stories. And that was a habit. I put that habit on myself. I did that. I would get in the car, turn on the radio, it was set to NPR. And one day I was like, oh my gosh. And I put my playlist on and I was like, yeah. And that became my new habit. And it absolutely shifted the way that I approached my day.
Yeah.
And it became a goal, or Martin, it became a new habit to allow myself self-reliance to walk into my workspace, which is a very coveted space for me. But it allowed me to walk into my workspace with a completely different attitude. And so a big goal of mine in my studio was always to have it be not just a place where people are welcomed, but people come that hour and it's a sanctuary for them. They close, the doors close, even if the door is open, because nobody is on the floor really. But to really create that environment. And I was sabotaging my own desire to create that environment just because I was listening to news, trapped in my car and nothing, no windows open and it couldn't go anywhere. So, and that's always been a goal of mine, to have my space be a place for people to come and have that time for them and really have that time be dedicated. And so I'm a big part of that environment and that atmosphere and how that all takes shape. And I was sabotaging my own goal.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, I don't care who you are. No one's going to do it perfectly 100% of the time, right? We're all just a work in progress.
Right.
But I think that the way we frame these issues are going to either allow for progress or defeat. And so if we're going into a goal situation, not a goal situation, but a manner of forming new habits for positive change,
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Martin. If we're going into that situation creating barriers and stressors for ourselves,
yeah,
well, it's just stress for anything. Do you remember when you were learning to drive and, you know, wait, this might have just been me. So I'll tell you a quick story. So my dad was a wild man, but he was teaching me how to drive. And he'd let me drive a lot when I was younger anyway, but that's a different story. And you could do that back then. But I was like 15 and we're driving and he takes me to the local, there's a plaza, you know, Marco, Golden Dawn Plaza, you know what I mean? And so he took me down there and he said, okay, you're going to drive, Misty Lynn. Let's do this. So I'm driving, I have my sunglasses on. I was totally like, to check me out. I'm driving, And I come to a stop and he says, you do know that you stopped in the basketball area, right? And I was like, well, yeah, there's no one here. He was like, you just killed a team of young basketball players. They're dead now. And I was like, oh, okay, Dad. So then I'm like, okay, he's lost it. So I'm driving. He's like, okay, let's drive home. I'm driving home and I go up the hill to the stop sign and I stop and he's put on the brake. Put on the brake. He gets out of the car, looks around. He says, your bumper is 1 inch over the white line. And I was like, okay. And he said, you just killed that woman. She was walking her baby in the stroller. The baby wasn't even 1 year old yet. And I was just like, what? So I drove home and then I never let him teach me how to drive anymore. From then on, I drove with my mother, which was a much more sane experience. But I share that. I can't believe I just shared that story with a bunch of people don't know me and a couple that do. But, you know, my dad had this way of putting me in check, which I don't know exactly where I started this point from, but, you know, when you're setting goals and changing your habits, having that mirror, having that point of reflection. And for me, it was my dad at that moment before I ran over the teams and whatnot, having that point of reflection to say, you know what, this goal, this habit, this whatever it is, needs a little bit more work. I needed more work as a driver and maybe a less crazy parent, but that's a different story. But I was very confident because that's the way I roll. And I needed somebody to check me. And when you're goal setting and when you're habit changing, you have to be open and aware to the fact that you're not going to do it right all the time. And you have to be open and aware to the fact that you need a mirror.
You do. And looking in the mirror, because I've got to be devil's advocate, looking in the mirror, you may not like what the response is. You may decide, I think I can push this to see if I can get this goal to work a little bit better. Or I can shift some things. Looking in the mirror is about looking at what's reflecting back at you, but it doesn't have to make the decision for you. And because I think that there are because I think that there are some circumstances that occur where maybe if a goal is tweaked or maybe if a goal is just simply revisited, right? We talked about this being in survival mode and just going. You can't pay attention to goals. And if you put the mirror in survival mode, you're going to be like, wah! And then that's not helping because you're still in survival mode. And then taking that step back, getting a fresh pair of eyes on it, one that maybe has had a good night's sleep, one that maybe, you know, has had a good breakfast or a good protein shake. But just that assessment, right? Workshopping. And we thought it was important that workshopping goals, workshopping be the word, because we wanted it to be a verb. We wanted it to be something action oriented. It's not goals do not stop because one goal or one habit begets another habit. And I I'll use myself as an example. I got a bike about a month ago. I like literally decades since I've been on a bike, decades. And apparently riding a bike is like riding a bike. So I got on and I was like, oh, I know how to do this. My body remembered this. And I rode around with my kids for a while. I was like, I'm going to the forest. And now I'm riding like 10 miles 3 or 4 days a week. I'm going to bump it up. Oh my God. There is something to be said for a good bike seat.
Your butt, man.
I got a new seat. So I do not have bike butt anymore. So, but the idea of making time for that, getting up in the morning where the path is less crowded, I see some familiar faces, and it's become this really cool thing that I do. It was an unexpected goal, Martin, that has now become a habit. And I didn't get to go yesterday. I was actually quite irritated. But it's become a habit, back to that self-reliance, that whole being. It is something that I do for myself. And it was an unexpected goal. And if I may, Misty, I would like to segue into, I called it the lightning bolt, because we're on our little paths and we're assessing our goals and we're doing our thing. And we're like, ooh, I hit your 1. Ooh, I hit your 3. Ooh, I'm in year 5. Whoop, whoop. And then an opportunity comes literally like a lightning bolt and just whoosh. And you're like, oh, that wasn't in my goals, but it is an awesome opportunity. So then there's a shift that has to happen. And it doesn't necessarily, bowl over all of your other goals. It doesn't do that. But maybe it has to fit in. Maybe you get a surprise opportunity to teach, always from the Pilates perspective, right? To teach a workshop. And then all of a sudden that creates another pathway, which is actually something that happened to me when I started working with Deborah Lesson. And she's like, well, I need you to come to New York on a Wednesday and assist this workshop. And I was like, oh, okay. And it started happening more and more, and I just started moving things over. They didn't go away, but I said, this is important. I like this. I like doing this. This is cool. And so I looked and I took stock in what was important and needed to be there. I went back to my goals and said, what is truly working and what can be maybe filtered out because I have this other thing that's leading me on this different path. And that's something that I think is important, because you don't necessarily want to get stuck on, oh my gosh, this is my goal sheet. That's what I wrote. And it said in 2020, this is what I was supposed to be doing. But what if something really cool comes your way? You want to have that flexibility. You want to have that option, because an opportunity is only an opportunity if you know it exists. But you want to have that option and that opportunity, but it doesn't mean it has to throw a monkey wrench into your whole goal, habit, life plan.
Sure.
But that constant workshop is going to keep you in the loop so that when something comes up, you don't feel thrown off kilter, and you can look at something for the opportunity that it is without feeling like you just threw a cannonball into your whole operation.
Right. And it's that big sucker punch almost, where, like you're riding on the bike and then you hit the what's that thing called? The root, and then you go flying through the air. How you land is how you're going to proceed forward.
Right.
If you land on your face, proceeding forward may be difficult, and it may cost you a lot of money in dental work. So then it comes back to our notion of pivoting. I've seen really, really talented people totally go down the drain because they got an opportunity that they were waiting for, and everything they were doing was preparing for them for this opportunity. But then once it got there, they were so hamstrung on this goal over here that they lost them both. the ability to look at our goals dynamically and be able to adjust accordingly, that comes from a lot of different places. Not even resilience, but I would say, no, I would say resilience. Being able to roll with the punches and bounce back. So when we take a look at forming these habits that lead to growth and success, we have to also look at the fact that life, if you're living it right, I think, is always going to be a little bit unpredictable. And navigating that maelstrom or that calm time all speaks to who we are, our character, our ability for growth, our desire, all of these things that make us uniquely human.
Mm-hmm. I think another important aspect is a lot of studio owners, because we are so small, or we were so small, or wherever you fit into that timeline, they don't have business partners. A lot of studio owners don't have business partners. Some do, but a lot don't, and it's just you by yourself. And I think one of the things that I've learned as my goals have shifted, and they've definitely shifted. For the women who are on here, you'll get this if you have children. Prior to having your first child, you were like, oh my God, how is this person gonna fit into my crazy world? That baby comes and all is known. You just like,
that's a lie. Oh, that's a bullshit sandwich with a side of bullshit.
No, but it doesn't mean, look, I get it. I got sent home with this baby, and I'm like, where's the book? Where's the stuff? Where's the tell me what to do, the video webinar? But when I had my first son, all of the things that I worried about in terms of how do I do all of this, his little self with his big head, I was like, oh, this is what it is. For my clients, because I started teaching 10 days after I gave birth, and I said, if you want me, there are two of me now. Mm-hmm. And people were like, okay, yeah, strap that baby on. It evolved my priorities, but no, I definitely think that allowing for those moments to happen. My point is, I digressed, I'm sorry. My point was, ask questions. For me, asking questions is a huge thing. I am fortunate to be able to go to people who have great business sense. If you saw my interview with Martin, I'm a horrible businesswoman, but
don't believe it.
I ask people questions. I present scenarios. Yeah. I have been offered this. I have learned not to try to dissolve that on my own. I asked my partner. Sometimes I even asked my kids, because kids are so blunt. I mean, my son was like, Mom, do you still want to be in your studio? And I was like, no, not really. And he's like, then close it. And I was like, okay. Well, I mean, and he's like, yeah. He's like, then you can just be home with us. Yay. So,
my kid was like, what are you going to do all day?
I have, Allie, she's like, I have a cat.
And that's hard too, Allie. I feel your pain.
Well, Allie, we have some animals too. We have a bird, 2 snakes, 4 frogs, a bearded dragon, and a tortoise. I digress.
Stop. I have to tell you guys this story. So I take a class with Nikki on Sunday mornings when I can. And so Nikki is teaching a Pilates class, right? And sometimes she lays down and demonstrates. Mabel, that is her bright white, he's cockatiel, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The bright white cockatiel. Mabel is on her knee. Mabel gets down and walks around. Mabel squawks at her. Like, you're not teaching that right. And I'm like, there's just something about this scenario that is irregular. But you teach the Pilates class with a bird telling you what to do. because I couldn't do it. I'd be like, get the piss out of here, birdie.
She
I don't
also
even like birds.
I'm very skilled at when I transition. She just stays there. She's like, oh, she's moving. Oh, okay, now we're doing this.
Literally, she'll go to stick her legs up in the air, and Mabel just hop down on her stomach, and I'm like, so now I'm not paying attention. Now I'm like, what's Mabel doing? Oh, that's a badass bird right there. It's a riot. So I'm just saying, don't listen to her madness.
No, but no, just having those opportunities where you can have your eyes open. So when these fabulous, come on, Allie Green,
You're coming, Allie. Sunday. Oh wait, you've got a workshop next Sunday.
Oh, she's got a workshop. I don't have a workshop.
Yeah.
But you can have these opportunities where you can look past the immediacy of the goals in front of you, right? You got to pay rent, you got to pay the Wi-Fi, right? You got to pay the cell phone, right? So you can look past the immediacy of these goals, and you can start to lift your eyes and look out across the horizon, because the horizon is expansive, and we always want to be able to expand, right? That's our thing: resiliency, expansion. So we have to stop just looking what's right in front of us, because in order for our goals to expand into habits and to expand into practices beyond that, we have to be able to lift our eyes, look out across the horizon, so we can see the other stuff that's in the past. So when that lightning bolt comes, you're like, oh yeah, gotcha. So
what was that again?
Gotcha. It's me catching my lightning bolt.
I mean, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of that, and it's assessing whether a goal is a long-term or short-term goal. Am I creating this new habit because I want to feel better overall, or am I creating this new habit because I'm trying to test myself and see how long I can do it for, whatever? Those long-term versus short-term versus micro habits and goals really can direct how we move forward and how we're able to take other things in as we're going along.
But that's a tool, being able to assess, workshopping your goals. That's a tool for your resiliency. That is a resiliency.
You have to be open for change.
Yeah.
You have to be open. If you're not open for change, well, then nothing can go well if it's coming at you last minute, because you can't handle it.
Right.
It's like walking down the street and somebody drops an anvil on your head. Well, not only were you not prepared for that, but now you're dead. You can't transition in another direction. You're just flat. So, oh, Allie has a question. Yay, Allie. How do you both stay positive and open to shift during this time? There's just so much changing, and without any guide,
Rails.
You know what, Allie, I will tell you this much. For me, it is, what was that?
Red wine.
Tequila. Ole. So, Mark says, ask for help 100%. And for me, because I'm such a big thinker, and because I am a person that tries to take it all in, I mean, to the point where I hear everything, I see everything. This is why parenting is really challenging for me in a lot of ways. For me, I have to break it down to a micro, like day by day living scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I continue to stay broad-minded, I almost can't stay positive. It's hard for me to be able to roll with the punches, because I'm getting punched all over the place all the time. But if I can bring it in and I focus it more on immediate needs, and then on my short-term habits that I'm trying to build, and I also keep a very, very good network of humans in my wheelhouse that I share with, that nourish me, it makes a big difference. And I just a little bit on that nourishment point, slight tangent, but it's important here. We are living in a dirty world right now. For those of you that follow me on Facebook, I've been on a little bit of a bender. I posted something earlier in the week, and a lot of people, stop it, Nikki, are you laughing at me? A lot of people have commented on it. Right now, I personally feel like people are so into it for themselves and such mercenaries. And Nikki and I, Allie, like a lot of us, we're Jessica, like all of us are in this teaching realm where we teach and we give and we do all of these things that are outwardly focused without having that nourishment come back at us.
Mm-hmm.
So by focusing a little bit more narrowly and really, really being aware of my group of homies that are looking out for me, and they're going to be honest with me. They're going to say, Misty, put that damn phone down. Stop watching NPR. Be like a normal human being. Allie, be like a normal human being for a minute and just live your life.
Right.
And don't worry about helping other people because you actually need the help right now. You've lost your mind. And you know what? When I get it from people that care about me, I'm able to say, okay, yeah, that I wasn't seeing that. I was completely off the rails, and it's time. And I need that once again. Coming back to checks, I need that gut check. So that's the way I handle it, Allie. And yes, sometimes I post things to get people riled up on purpose. And sometimes I post it because I just really need to understand what's going on. I just don't understand the way people think.
I I have experienced a lot of trauma in my life, and the only reason that I know this, because you think I should know this, when I was in counseling right before my divorce, and the therapist would meet with us together until she met with us individually because apparently my ex and I were crackheads.
What?
Yeah, we were crazy, and she couldn't.
Oh, I was like, what? You were a crackhead? I was like, Nikki, I never knew.
And so when I told my story, which, if you're a Black woman, you live with trauma. I'm not saying other women don't live with trauma. I say that. But Black women, you live with trauma. And I my mother is deceased. I had a sister who is mentally ill, and she's also deceased. I raised my niece. She's actually 25. I think I did a good job. Maybe jury's still out. I don't know, but she's okay. And so I learned in my 20s, when you're no part of the no mom, when you're part of the no mommies club, it's not fun. And I learned that I was either going to wallow or I was going to live with Care Bears and rainbows. And I like Care Bears and rainbows. I don't like conflict, but I do enter it when I need to. This particular period of time definitely shook me up. Bike riding has been a really big thing for me simply because it's a moment in time that is mine, and it allows me to be in nature, which is a huge thing. Nature is very cathartic. Um, I am a bit of a hippie, I realize that, but I
Damn hippie.
I also make conscious choices about how my day will be. There is a whole global thing that I can't control. I can't control it, but I can control myself. I Between my partner and I in our home, we try to control our four boys, 10, 10, 12, and 13. Mm-hmm. And but I make very conscious choices. I make very conscious choices about how we will live, what we will do. And that's kind of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about being in survival mode, because I was definitely in survival mode for a little bit, and then I was like, snap out of it. This is not it. This is not the end all be all. I looked at how my life was shifting, and I was like, okay, get off the freaking rails. If you don't like the way the roller coaster is, well, I literally threw a monkey wrench, and one day I just didn't go to work. And I was totally fine with it. I was just like, called everybody and I said, I'm not feeling this today. I literally was like, I want to spend time with my family. And you know what? The world didn't end. All of my clients were there whenever their next session was. And I think that we forget that, because y'all know when you teach Pilates, that client will call off in a minute and not think twice about it. No, Allie, certain things are not negotiable for my sanity, because it's my sanity. It is my sanity. And, the stay in place, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't go anywhere. But then I was like, oh, okay, I don't have to go anywhere. We can do things at home. Like we painted. My stepdaughter is a beautiful artist. I ordered, that Jeff Bezos. Amazon will bring you anything you. And we just did things like that. My son had a science experiment, water in wine glasses, and it turned into like this hour and like 15-minute thing with our two youngest sons, and they were adding pencil shavings and we were videotaping, and it was so spontaneous and it was so cool. And I didn't really care what was going on in that moment. I didn't care what I was supposed to be doing or what didn't get done. um I did.
That's the rainbow. That's the rainbow.
That's the rainbow. And so I try to find those moments. Right now we have Peter Griffin pictures posted all over our house because my kids are really into Family Guy, so they printed off Peter Griffin pictures and they're literally all over my house. Um, it's it's deciding that what is going on out there doesn't have the big impact that it could have if you allowed it to, and it's just making that conscious choice. And I know that sounds oversimplified, but sometimes it's just like, that's not what I want to do. That doesn't work for me right now in this moment. That doesn't feed my soul. This feeds my soul. And no, I don't cancel my clients every day. Please don't think that I do. But one of the things that came out of that was about every 3 weeks, I pick a day where I just don't work. And it's usually a Monday or a Friday. And so I get like a 3-day weekend, like, every 3 or 4 weeks. And it's kind of cool and it's spontaneous, and I decide when it happens, and I give 24-hour notice to the client. And it's a little thing, but it's kind of cool. And
it's like when you're a kid and you know that you're supposed to be at school on Thursday, but your mom comes in and says, I think that maybe you're sick today. And you're like, and then you just have the best day. Maybe it's your dad, not my dad, but you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's just that little bit. If it's feeling a little bit like you're getting away with something,
yeah,
it's feeling like you are doing the best, most cool, groovy thing for yourself.
yeah.
And that time, it doesn't matter what you do that day. You could watch old Lauren Green movies.
Yeah.
But at the end of that day, you just feel like, man, did I recharge my batteries?
Yeah.
You don't take a day like that and decide that, you're going to scrub the grout in your kitchen floor. I mean, unless that's your jam, which
No.
I'm sorry. But, use that time to get that nourishment, because we need, especially in these times where our batteries are only running at like 30% a lot of the time, that little thing can change everything. It shifts your mindset to a point where you can breathe again.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Nikki has this scheduled for every 3 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she has a date with herself and her internal tribe and then her external tribe for a day every 3 to 4 weeks. And we know other people do it. We know a lot of people do it in their lives. Why don't we?
Right.
And we're the teachers, we're the healers, we're people that do so much for other people. We deserve it. And I don't just say that because we teach Pilates. Anybody that teaches anything, whether you're teaching at your recovery group or you're teaching, at teaching a dance class, or, whatever it is that you're bringing to other people, it takes a lot of energy to share at that level.
It does, and I think people underestimate that. I mean, people in my family, they sometimes laugh at me. Well, not my sisters, because they work part-time too. None of us believe in working more than 25 hours a week. But, people like you, that's your full time. And I'm like, yes, it is absolutely my full time. And it is my full time. And because it's what works for me.
I have to tell you, I admire that in you. Seriously, I admire that. I have always had this struggle with stopping the machine. Like I am the machine. I'm like this. Dun, 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 dun. Sometimes when I walk, I actually make sounds like that because that's the way like I am always on high test. And to hear somebody that is a person that I admire and enjoy
I do
say, and you but say, you know what, listen, I work 24 hours a week and 25 hours a week, and I'm cool and groovy with it. And, you know, whatever. Like I said, it inspires me to ponder that inspiration and make change eventually. It is a step in the right direction.
It is a step in the right direction because you guys, the first thing about making a change is to have the thought. You know, because for so many years, so many of us, I did that. I did the 40, 50 hours a week. And you know, if you're in your studio for 40 hours a week, you know, none of that is admin. If you're teaching for 40 hours a week, none of that is admin. And so I did that. I did that. And I was like, oh my gosh, where do I fit into this? Right. And so it was definitely a progression. I think I talked about this before when the stay in place hit, I literally went, I'm not working on Saturdays anymore. I was already.
So did I. I was like, not Saturdays.
Back. I mean, for my whole, you know, dancer. You know, if you're a dancer, you know that means you were waiting tables and bartending, and you know you were working all weekend. So, I took every moment. I took every opportunity. I've cultivated my schedule in the way that I want because I want to take my long bike rides on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then on the weekends. And so I don't start working until 10:45 on Tuesdays in the morning. And my first client is my aunt, and she just feeds my soul. And so
you have to look at Nikki's Instagram because there are photos of her training her aunt, and it is super cute.
And so that's my first client on Tuesday. And then I go into my floor bar with my dance babies, and then I go into my class and my mentees of the workshop of the people that I'm mentoring, and it's just a really fun day. And it starts off with what will soon be a 90-minute to 2-hour bike ride, and that's how I want to spend my Tuesday. And I think after having been in the workforce, my mom owned her own business, so literally I've been working since I was like 10, 11 years old. That's a long time to be in a workforce. And I've worked in high school and I worked all through, So I think literally just saying to yourself, I'm going to take this moment in time. This is my time. Write it down if you need to. Writing down that is really good for me. I write it down and I say, so that's a goal, right? A goal that I want to turn into a habit, and a habit that I want to be an inherent practice within my life. I write it down. This is what I want to do. I am doing this. They are small, simple things, but they have a lot of impact. And then you will start to see how those things manifest maybe in your personal life. And maybe you find that you have a little bit more time to breathe until you take a step back and you're looking at your projects, or you're looking at your studio, or whatever other places are where maybe you don't have as much control over the time. And Maxine, reclaim your time.
That's right. Maxine. But, and just to liken this back to other things, in Pilates, we talk about, wow, I got real close there. We talk about building a personal practice, and doing other forms of fitness as well. But can you shift that on your head and we don't like the term self-care because it's very external, but if you think of a whole being practice for yourself, what am I going to do on X day that does nothing but nourish me?
Right.
And, if you want to make a spa treatment or whatever, yeah, that's great. But maybe you try journaling. Maybe you try meditation. Maybe you floss really, really well that day. Whatever it is. I just mentioned flossing because people think it's a superfluous thing. But I was at the dentist today and I enjoy flossing. I think it's an important thing. But once again, it's also taking care of yourself in a way that we don't often take the time to do. Well, I floss every day, but that's a different story. And I use water pick probably more than you would. My teeth regimen is 9 minutes long. But when you have all these braces, you know what to
I
do.
feel you on that because I have had extensive dental work, and when you have had extensive dental work, I'm in the middle of something. I was supposed to get my implant and during the stay in place, and they were like, "Oh no, but you can come in." I was like, "But I don't even need the implant. I just need the crown." I was like, "But okay, all right. I guess I'll see you in the summer. Okay." But no, seriously, when you have extensive dental work, you're like,
Listen, one time with these braces, one time. I'm not doing this ever again. My lips will never look like chipped ham again. So all I'm saying is take that day. Take that time. If it's too much for you to think of taking the day, and Allie, I know you and I are the same in a lot of ways. I think that if you find a way to just carve out a half a day, start with a half a day. I'm only going to work until noon, and then the rest of the day is mine. I'm going to hang out with Alfredo, or I'm not going to hang out with Alfredo, or the cat is going to get bathed today, and I'm going to then go get a blood transfusion. Whatever it is, make that your time for focusing on things that you want to do. Because if you do that, it becomes a personal practice that becomes a habit that becomes your way of living.
mm-hmm.
And it's that where we're trying to get to. So break the machine, because it's already 7:56, Nikki. We blew it with this break the machine business.
Oh no, we're close. Oh, okay. I thought you were. No, I forget. We're on 2 different time zones.
Yes, indeed. So we gave you guys a challenge. Allie. Yes. Yay! See, you already made a step forward. And
Also,
and a beer. All right. Allie's doing all right. We'll have tequila next week over at this house. But what is it that's gnawing in your craw, to the good or to the bad, that you want to talk about? Anything is on the table. Let's break the machine. Vodka. I love Patty. I love the way she thinks. I'm not much of a vodka girl, though. I will tell you, maybe I just haven't become acquainted with the right vodka. But, you could school me. I'm going to look and see if we got any messages about breaking the machine. And if we didn't, we're going to riff on our own for a couple more minutes before we shake it loose. Oh, yeah, no questions. Here we go. All right. Nikki?
Yeah.
Here's my break the machine.
Okay, break away.
And this was one of my incendiary Facebook posts. I am having gross difficulties. What? Oh, Marco, the 5 lynchings.
You got to do it. The audience gets to pick.
All right.
Yeah.
Should you go first or shall I?
What do you say? You know
what I say? This is what I say. And it kind of actually goes to my point. And fireworks too, that's a different story, but in the same vein. I think that we are in a place in our world, in our society, where we have stopped giving a shit about other people. Not you guys here, because everybody that's in this chats a lot is a very sound and solid human being. And I say that from the bottom of my heart. But I swear, one more flat earther, one more, water is not wet unless it's a day that ends in Q. We can't always make excuses. We can't always make excuses, one, for inaction, and 2, we can't blame other people. We can't make excuses that these people were lynched because they accidentally fell out of a tree. It wasn't suicide. These people were lynched because, they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. People know what's going on, and they're choosing to be silent. And silence is complicity, and silence is deadly. And what is it about Americans? Ooh, that didn't sound good, but I'm going to go with it. What is it about us Americans that we feel like it's somebody else's problem? No, God damn it, it's everybody's problem. Because let me tell you something. If somebody can be lynched over here, the fact that he doesn't look like you, maybe not from the same neighborhood, whatever, doesn't mean that it can't happen to you. And if you are going to sit back and allow and not call out this kind of bullshit barbarism and just denounce it, then you are the problem.
But I think it's not just, I mean, it's barbarism for sure, but I think I don't know who of you actually know, I mean, there are many stories, right? Lynching, particularly in this country. So we know that lynching was just made a federal hate crime after much consternation. And that in itself is sad. So a lot of these started happening. This started happening like right after that vote went through. So that's number one. So it's a response to someone saying to you after 120, that's a long time, to take something that is so very racially motivated and have to take that amount of time to decide that this should be a federal hate crime. So that's number one. Number two, lynchings were they were shows. They were gatherings. If a town decided that they were going to hold a lynching, and lynchings, because although there would be single lynchings, a lot of the time they were groups. They were groups of people, and people would come from other towns. This was a show. This was a spectacle.
Picnics. They would pack picnic lunches.
So it is barbaric for sure, but it is so intentional. And you have to go back and you have to understand that people were lynched for crossing the street the wrong way. People were lynched for just stupid things. I'm not even going to call them. I mean, I don't know if mundane is the right word, but and then it was done in groups. And then of course, if you know Billie Holiday and you know the song "Strange Fruit," that's what the song is about. I don't know how many people know that, but that's what the song is about.
Yep.
Because you would drive in certain places and you would literally just see bodies hanging from trees. And they wouldn't take the bodies down.
Of course not.
That's the other thing. It's not like, it wasn't just enough to kill people, to hang them. They were left there to rot and for other people to see and take a lesson from that. Boy, take a lesson from that. So these are intentional. This isn't just, not that it's ever okay, and not that there is ever just a killing of an innocent Black body. These are intentional. These have a message, as lynchings always did, but to do this in this time is, yes, they were left as a public display. They happened as a public display, spectacle, people coming. They would make flyers.
They would take souvenirs.
Yes. And then you would literally drive through a portion of town and there would just be Black bodies hanging in trees.
And we're not talking ancient history here.
Nope, we're not. So we talk about, who is the woman, Nicole? She wrote 1619. Nicole Haber. I'm going to remember her name and put it in the thing.
As soon as we hang up, you'll remember.
Right. But at any rate, she was speaking about, she speaks about race. And she was on NPR this morning. But she was speaking about her parents, her grandparents came up north during the migration because at 3 years old, you were old enough to help in the fields because you could bring water. 3 years old. So her grandmother, when her oldest son turned 3, She said, nope, we're not doing this. And she said the town that they lived in was overwhelmingly Black, but it was run obviously by whites. And she said, yes, thank you, Nicole.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. And she said the amount of just sheer unadulterated violence that was put onto these people was just crazy. And this is what her grandparents witnessed. And it was a daily thing. And then it's just really sad, right? Because guess what? It's a daily thing. It's a daily thing. And so for me, the lynchings are profound because it makes a statement that's bigger than just that's a it's we're being ridiculed.
Oh yeah, I mean the timing in particular, it's no accident. And none of these things are accidents.
Right.
And and this is, once again, this is where I get angry, is because it's one thing to say one was an accident, though once again, I don't know how anybody accidentally hangs themselves from a tree in their front yard or someone else's. I mean, I've had a lot of accidents happen, but never accidentally with a rope from a tree. But as they start to accumulate, and then you look at other things happening in these areas, aside from the protests, we've got police that are being caught working with these right-wing extremists. We have former United States airmen leading militias and getting caught once again in these same areas. You can't say that that is an accident. An accident is when you accidentally drop a book on your cat. That's an accident. You don't accidentally hang someone from a tree.
Right.
We have to start being honest about this. And for people that are uncomfortable with this conversation, welcome, because we're pretty uncomfortable with the fact that this could happen to any one of us.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
And you don't know when, and you don't know where, and you don't know what circumstance will, because you get harassed walking out of a grocery store. What was it? A 14-year-old kid, I didn't go into it in depth. 14-year-old kid missed his bus, was walking to school, and then
knocked to the yard and got shot at.
Got shot at because they thought he would really. And then we think about all of the different things that seem so innocent when a white person does them. We think about all of the different things that aren't even questioned when a white person does it. But for some reason, it's a capital crime for us, and it is a capital crime because apparently you can get pulled over for a taillight and die.
When you're complaining.
Apparently, with your hands handcuffed behind yourself, you can shoot yourself in the back of a police car, shoot yourself in the head, and it's called suicide. But your hands are handcuffed behind your back, not even in front of you. What's the end game to that? Like, how do you win against that? And now we have police who are fired, who basically just out loud in court said it's open season on.
Well, and the thing about that
I watched it with my.
I have not seen it yet. I'll watch it this weekend. We'll definitely have a chat about it. But what gets me about these police being fired is that there's nothing to stop them from being rehired 2 precincts over. And then, so basically you're just kicking the can down the road. And now he's extra pissed because he left his tiny little precinct over here. And now he's over here in, some place where he's only making $7.50 an hour. You don't think he has a grudge? He's got a grudge, and he's going to take that out on the people that he thinks are the weakest.
And he's already told you. You don't even have to guess. He told you. He said it out loud. You don't even have to guess. He told you what he was going to do. So,
yeah,
it's not that Misty and I try to avoid race. We don't, because it's there. Obviously, it's in the air. Obviously, we don't avoid race. We are Black women. But we came up with Break the Machine because we know that there are things that people want to discuss.
Mm.
And we felt that they should have a platform to do that. But we also, ours. I mean, you see how we are. Like everything is a joke, but it's serious.
Sure.
But we know that these things are important. We know that people are looking for um, positive and um, positive reinforcement, really, really staying resilient in not only who you are, but what you do and how you live your life. And it doesn't mean that these topics aren't important. Yes, 5 people being lynched, and those are the 5 we know about. That's the really fantastic part. Those are the 5 we know about. Of course, these things are important. Absolutely. But we also want you guys to have a place where you can come and it can be light and it can be lively and maybe, tools are fabulous and they work and, maybe they're
Maybe.
maybe they're pixie sticks and
Right.
but it's a place where we have a camaraderie. It's a place where we have a camaraderie with each other, but also with you. And it is a place where we feel very strongly that we are discussing things that are on people's minds because at the end of the day, good, bad, right, or wrong, this is not where we stay in this moment in time, And if we can do our part to help bring a little bit of humor, bring a little bit of levity, and just help people move forward, or maybe forward is not forward, maybe forward is just over, maybe just move over a little bit, but then and that's why we're here. And so whatever topics you choose to discuss, we will absolutely discuss during Break the Machine. And yeah.
And don't feel like you can't send them to us, whenever. Like, hey, Misty, what's your thought on remedial basket weaving classes? I think that this would be a great thing for me to try for my personal self-care regimen. Do you think? No, I'm never going to say that that's okay. But what I am going to say is send us anything, because if you've noticed, it's 8:12 and we're still talking. We can talk forever and we're really good at talking. So anyway, guys, thank you.
Thank you.
Mark, you know what? That was a tough one, only because, you just see that word. It's like, but I'm so glad that you asked about it, because I just think that there are probably a lot of people that want to talk about it and are terrified to bring it up. And, we're not scared of anything over here. There's something wrong with us in the best of ways.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody, for coming to play in our sandbox tonight. We will be back next Thursday. We are considering a little bit of a time change. We've talked about this. So you know what? Hey, now, there's always room for everybody in Pilates, Mark. Let's chat it out. I'm totally serious. Let's chat it out. But yeah, so we're considering a time change. So if you guys think there's a time that maybe will work a little bit better, earlier, later, different day, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Show us some love. Let us know. I love you too. And everybody, have a fantastic weekend. Stay away from fireworks, those bastards. And
bye, guys.